So I picked up a Star Wars retro collection Boba Fett today, and in spite of being a devout 3 3/4 inch O-ring GI Joe fan, I'm finding this old clunker to be quite spectacular, and I'll tell you why. I feel like I'm tapping into a piece of toy history with him. This is not a toy of the 80s, much as you might believe. This is more a toy of the 1970s. This is a bygone era that predates my lifespan, and it's evident in just how different the priorities are. It's a hardy toy. It's not supposed to be realistic to what you see on screen. It's not supposed to necessarily even hold its weapon particularly well. It's made to be cheap, effective at being a fun toy, and very, very durable. I don't know how it stacks up to the vintage, and I know that the vintage ones have seen some years, but just looking at the paint applications, it's a very thick factory gloss, and it looks hardy as hell. This guy can see a lot of action without any fear of breakage. He comes with one accessory, presumably easily enough lost, but it's Boba Fett. The Sculpt is weaponized. The whistling bird, the knee dart launchers, the rocket firing jetpack, and its tantalizingly unremovable rocket. Yeah, if the legends are true, it all came about when a lawsuit filed against a Battlestar Galactica toy found in favor of the plaintiff. And as a result, Star Wars was denied the rocket-firing Boba Fett. Which makes me think that this was a slightly more premium figure than the regular. I mean, the added engineering and materials, like a metal spring, already push it way past the standard fare of 5 POA figures that included maybe one measly accessory. Speaking of the accessory, for comparison's sake, I have it here with the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Stormtrooper weapon. It's not bad. It takes some liberties with the Stormtrooper design by adding this extra sort of magazine or charge or cartridge onto the bottom, but it serves its purpose, and I am impressed that they put texture on the pistol grip. And in spite of being a very crude early attempt at this sculpted weapon, it has the broad strokes. It's also not authentic to Boba Fett, but to my mind it took a surprisingly long time before we got an accurate Boba Fett blaster / laser carbine. I remember having a Power of the Force 2 barrel-chested Boba Fett. Loved that figure, in spite of him being kinda crap, but he also did not come with an accurate Boba Fett blaster. So I'm not going to deduct any points for this thing being not screen accurate, but certainly accurate to the figure that it's homaging. Not homaging, reproducing, quite faithfully at that. The head sculpt is an interesting compromise. Obviously he doesn't have an aiming antenna that protrudes from the helmet. That would have been a very easily broken piece. But I quite like what they've done here anyway. It's sculpted in such a way that it's not a separate piece, it doesn't protrude from the helmet, but nevertheless it's still there, like it's midway between being pulled down. And it gave you a hint as to what that piece of the costuming actually does. Because nowhere in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi does Boba Fett pull it down. He would only do that, well, his father would only do that in Clones. The paintwork is bold. It's certainly a signature look, and I suppose in the late 70s and early 80s this passed as an approximation of what was seen on screen. Now we have paint apps that are so detailed and far more accurate to their screen counterparts. We've got tampos to add more intricate detail. Here we have these bold pops of color. The red around the helmet visor is so signature. There are these black recesses, the darkened black viewplate, not transparent on the toy of course, but apart from those color operations, the helmet is the same color as his jumpsuit. The chest armor is in this gaudy green, which is not an olive, it's not an aqua, and it's not accurate to the screen version at all, but once again is signature to the toy and so lovingly reproduced here in this retro style figure. Plus, after seeing numerous old school copies of this figure, particularly courtesy of Toy Galaxy and Dan's Boba set, it's very interesting to see one of these without any paint wear whatsoever. So In that sense alone, the retro collection is fulfilling a very important purpose, in that it is putting mint, beautiful specimens of this toy in the hands of collectors to play with and to scuff up, or to leave pristine and just have a minty, factory fresh, new, as of 2020 when this was made, version of Boba Fett's classic action figure. The elephant in the room will always be the articulation and lack thereof. 5 points, and one of them suspiciously frozen. I've encountered this with the handful of vintage figures that I've got. I've got a Darth Vader, and I've got a Biker Scout, and neither of their heads move very satisfyingly. I'm terrified of twisting the head off, because I know about modern toys and frozen joints, so while this is not really, strictly speaking, a modern toy, I wouldn't want to pop the head off anyway. The arms move along a swivel, full 360 degree rotation, though why, I don't know. This guy's meant to just stand and look cool, right? The legs can swing side to side, somewhat hampered on the back swing, but can seat perfectly at a 90 degree or beyond 90 degree angle. And that's important because the potential of a Star Wars figure is truly unlocked when you add vehicle play into the equation. Unfortunately, the only Star Wars spaceship I have to hand is not the slave one, I mean Boba Fett's ship, the Fire Spray class. It is in fact a A-Wing. The cockpit is not cramped, but it's not the most spacious either, and as you can see, Boba Fett slides in perfectly, jetpack and all. And what's quite nice about him seated with his jetpack on is that he seats upright. It's a pet peeve of mine where figures actually slouch backwards or recline into the seat of a spaceship or jet aircraft. Boba Fett looks great in this cockpit and would no doubt look great in his signature vehicle. All of a sudden I'm jonesing for a reproduction Slave 1. Oh yeah. So final thoughts on the Fettster? Well, while I won't be using him on the front lines of battle anytime soon, I'm glad I have him. By being a masked character from the old school Star Wars style of action figures, it kind of increases his longevity. I must say, and I'm treading on hallowed ground here, so forgive me Star Wars fans, the human and alien characters from the Star Wars collection, the Empire Strikes Back collection, the Return of the Jedi collection, all those vintage guys, they haven't aged nearly as well. The head sculpts are perhaps the biggest problem, for me at least. But Boba Fett, by being head to toe, completely masked and clothed, looks alien enough to be a mechanical creature. It's such a signature helmet, and it's such a retro and infamous portrayal of this look that it has the same kind of credentials that G1 Optimus Prime has, and Commando 82 Snake Eyes has. These toys might not be the finest, they might not be the greatest, but they were the first. And that's a pedestal that nothing can take away from them. Yeah. I'm kind of digging this figure. Oh dear, I might need that Slave 1 very soon. Yo, Joburg, everybody. I promise to review something from GI Joe soon, I promise, okay? Or at least, at the very least, military toy related. Okay? Deal. Catch you next time.